My heart stopped when I saw it, the bracelet lying there, covered in dirt. It was unmistakably Abasi's. The small iron beads, the scratch on the clasp, even the frayed cord, everything was exactly as he wore it. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands, barely able to breathe. I had heard whispers before of a cursed path through the forest, one that led directly to Prince Okelo's palace. Few dared to take it, even in daylight, and it was said that anyone who wandered too close to the palace grounds heard voices, strange, haunting voices that seemed to float in the air, calling out for help. With Abasi's bracelet clutched tight in my palm, I knew I had to go there. I had to find out what happened to him. That night, I waited until the village was asleep, sleeping out quietly. The forest path was cold and thick with shadows. Every rustling leaf felt like it hit someone watching, every snapped twig like footsteps behind me. But I kept going, deeper and deeper into the trees, until I saw it, the towering walls of the prince's palace, dark and silent against the sky. I crept closer, my heart pounding. And then, I heard it, a faint whisper in the night, almost too soft to catch. Kato. I froze. It was my name, but so quiet, like a ghost of a voice. I swallowed hard, listening. Again it came, barely audible, stretched thin over the night air. Kato. I didn't even think. I followed the voice, stumbling through the thick brush until I reached the back wall of the palace. There, hidden behind the trees, was a narrow gate. I pressed my ear to it, and inside, I heard something, faint cries, choked sobs. They weren't loud, but they were unmistakably human. I tried the gate, and to my shock, it creaked open. I slipped inside, moving as silently as I could. The air was thick and stale, the walls covered in strange markings I didn't recognize. I kept walking until I reached a small, dark courtyard. And there, in the center, was a deep pit, surrounded by stones. The cries were louder here, coming from the pit. I peered over the edge, and there, at the bottom, I saw people. Thin, broken people, with hollow eyes and trembling hands. Among them, staring up at me, was my brother. Abasi. I whispered, barely daring to believe it. He looked up, his eyes wide and dull, like he was seeing through me. His skin was pale, his body thinner than I could have imagined. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. My heart shattered seeing him like this, trapped in that pit like a forgotten animal. Then, out of nowhere, I felt a hand grip my shoulder. I turned, and there stood Prince Okelo, his face twisted into that same thin-lipped smile. Looking for someone, he asked, his voice cold and mocking. His grip tightened, fingers digging into my skin like claws. I tried to pull away, but his strength was terrifying. "Please, my brother," I managed to whisper. Prince Okelo only laughed. "They all beg," he said, gesturing toward the pit. "They all cry out, just like you. And do you know what I do with their cries?" He leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I keep them." He dragged me closer to the edge of the pit, forcing me to look down at the broken faces, the pleading eyes. "Each one of them," he said, his voice soft but clear. "Each one thought they could defy me. And each one now serves me. As will you, and everyone who remembers you." I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't even breathe. All I could do was stare down at Abasi, who was mouthing something I couldn't understand, his face twisted in agony. Then, with a flick of his wrist, Prince Okelo shoved me, sending me tumbling toward the edge. My hand barely caught onto the stone, stopping my fall, but he only chuckled. "Consider this mercy," he said, his eyes cold. "You get to live with your fear. With the knowledge of what happens to those who cross me." And with that, he turned and left, his footsteps fading into the darkness. I somehow found the strength to pull myself up and run through the forest, back to the village, with Abasi's empty eyes and Prince Okelo's chilling smile seared into my mind. Now, whenever I walk through the village, I feel as if someone's watching me from the shadows. I hear whispers of voices in the night, echoes of lost souls who will never return. And every time I close my eyes, I see Abasi, trapped in that pit, calling my name. What really happened to Abasi? And what is waiting for me if I return to Prince Okelo's palace? If you want to find out, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. And if this story gave you chills, share it with someone who loves a good horror tale. The truth is out there, but are you ready to hear it?